Hello and welcome up to what I'm called is the streaming center for our 8 News Now Investigators podcast, debuting every Monday at 7 p.m. and every Wednesday at 7 p.m. My colleague Vanessa Murphy on this very channel with High Heels and Hidden Truths, her excellent look into some of the stories she's covering. With me today, David Charnes, my 8 News Now investigator colleague. David worked this week on what I guess we'll call a premature ICE deportation. Yeah. Someone who was arrested and had some deportation hearings before we even found out if they were
guilty,
criminally liable.
So what's really interesting about this story is we got an email a couple of weeks ago from a woman who said, my daughter was hit and killed while she was crossing the street. This driver hit her at a red light. She had the right of way. She was in a crosswalk over at Decatur and Rancho, right by the North Las Vegas airport. And this gentleman, 37-year-old Angel Franco Merida, hit her and was arrested for reckless driving. Exactly, it was a crash, so exactly what was reckless about it, it wasn't in the arrest report. She alleges that he was speeding at the time. That wasn't in the documents we got. However, he gets arrested. He gets charged with reckless driving. He goes to court. He has a hearing. A judge sets bail. And what we found is within about 4 days of that arrest, he was in ICE custody. He had no authorization, I'm told, to be in this country, even though he had lived here for what I could find was decades. And within 3 weeks, he was gone. And what this story did and what it's doing as we're talking about it is it kind of raised the question of, well, when should someone be deported if they have ongoing criminal proceedings? And I filed a story on this on Wednesday, and we'll take a look.
She was always afraid somebody was going to die, so she was very devoted to her work.
She is 33-year-old Amber Brown, a nurse who on June 19th was walking in a crosswalk in this Northwest Valley intersection when a driver ran a red light and killed her.
And when she didn't come home, I started panicking.
Amber's mother, Sherry Brown, started looking for her daughter, making calls to area hospitals, ultimately learning she was dead through an app on her phone.
And when I looked down there, it showed her at the coroner's office, and I totally broke down.
Police arrested the man they say was driving, Angel Franco Merida, seen here behind the glass in this courtroom. Prosecutors quickly charging him with reckless driving resulting in death. But shortly after he posted bond, Franco Merida was not only out of jail, but out of the country. An attorney telling a judge this in a hearing the next week.
My understanding is that he was taken by ICE.
Records show ICE detained him, and then an immigration judge granted his deportation to Guatemala just 26 days after his arrest. At the next court hearing, now out of the country, when he didn't show up, a judge issued a warrant for his arrest.
What does it mean to you that you may never see justice because this guy is gone?
I think it's horrible. I think that they should bring him back, that he should serve justice. Why should he get away with, he killed my daughter. And just because he's from, another country, there shouldn't be like a free ticket to just free the country.
They snatched him and took him right under our noses before we even knew it.
Clark County District Attorney Steve Wolfson says ICE never alerted his office to the deportation and that the case is basically over.
What does justice look like then if ICE came and got this guy and he may never, ever come back?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, again, the family was cheated. They were cheated out of getting justice in the state court system where he is being prosecuted.
What does it mean to you that he is not being held responsible for his actions?
I think it's horrible. I mean, it breaks my heart and it just makes me so angry.
Angry because unlike many ICE-led deportations happening in Nevada, where an inmate in a Nevada prison is taken into ICE custody and deported after serving a sentence, Franco Merida will likely never face any consequences.
Do you think ICE messed up?
Yes.
Well, that woman certainly dealing with a lot of emotions with the death of her family member and then seeing this person leave the jurisdiction. Do you think we'll ever see him again?
No. And I don't, a couple things to unpack there. What was interesting is she didn't know that he had actually already been deported. So we found all that information through the immigration court. And we had a lot of questions for ICE and that immigration court, right? Why are you getting involved in a state criminal proceeding that's ongoing? He had been arrested. Yes, he was out on bail, but that doesn't mean your case is over. He was still in the justice court process, so he needed to have a preliminary hearing and then eventually go up to district court, likely get sentenced. I mean, there's no, in this kind of case where it's a car crash, and what wasn't in that story, but what we got later was body camera video. There's only one person who could have done it. And the question would have been, what would have been that state sentence, right? And that charge carries a possible sentence of 1 to 6 years in prison. Obviously, each case can be different. There can be plea deals. And we just don't know because they deported him so soon. And the real question is, well, why did that immigration judge deport him 3 weeks into this case? And in some of those court clips, you hear that they don't even know what's going on, and they issued a warrant for his arrest, even though, to answer your question, it's unlikely, I think, that he ever will come back, because why would you want to spend time in a Nevada prison when you can be free in another country? Guatemala is his home country, at least it is his place of birth, but other records we found with that same name showed that he had been in other civil matters, divorce proceedings, or child custody issues dating back to 2006, I think it was. So he'd been here for quite a long time.
So I think it shows
there is no justice.
No, not for that woman, at least not now. But I think it shows a possibility that the federal stance on when it's okay to take someone maybe shifting. That could be.
I think that what we've seen a lot here in Southern Nevada in terms of ICE activity aren't necessarily raids like we're seeing in Minneapolis or other parts of the country, but targeted enforcement, picking people up where they know people are. A lot of the arrests happening here in Southern Nevada are simply picking people up at the jail after they serve a jail sentence, or picking people up at prison after they serve, more than years in prison. And if you go on the worst, what the ICE calls worst of the worst, and they show these lists of all these people, a huge amount of them are in what I like to call the huge town of Indian Springs, which is just where the prison is, because that's
population
10, because that's where they're pulling these people from.
Right.
More on that in the coming weeks. So,
can I ask you a question? I thought I heard you talking about this earlier in the week, so not to put you on the spot, but am I right that CCDC tells ICE when they have someone?
So Metro has a longstanding policy of alerting immigration to any non-American in their custody, right? If you're over here from the UK and you get arrested and you're thrown in CCDC, they're going to tell Customs or whomever. They're going to tell the federal government. Metro has a policy 287G, which was implemented in the late 2010s, then stopped, and now it's happening again, where there's basically a MOU with ICE that ICE can say, okay, there's someone in your custody that we're going to pick up. Can you hold them for 48 hours? And Metro says yes, and that's all that is. It kind of trains some of those officers to work on that, but they're not ICE agents. And in this, I asked Metro about that, and this is not that. I also asked Senator Jackie Rosen about this whole thing, and we talked to her about that, and here's what she had to say.
Itself, Justice?
Well, he's going to live a free life in the other country or wherever he's going back to, or in any other case like this. And for the victim or the victim's family, do they have some right to justice? What are their rights to have their day in court?
And that's some of that body camera video.
Right. We got another good look at the defendant there, who you say is in Guatemala, who they say is in Guatemala. And to underscore a point you made earlier, I think it's interesting that immigration knows where these people are pretty much from the moment they get into custody. But up until, let's say, never before has someone
Would they get pulled? Yeah.
yanked.
Yeah, and I think that's something that after we did this story, Kyle, once we do one story, we hear from a bunch of people who's happened before. And I did hear from another person who said the exact same thing happened to me. She said she actually went to the sentencing for someone in a very similar traffic case, and he was gone. We don't see, or we haven't seen this happen, and it looks like the federal government is just deporting people accused of crimes rather than actually sentenced, adjudicated, and serving whatever their consequence is. And what is also kind of interesting about this is, some people were commenting online that Nevada judges, when they sentence you, can say, well, just leave the country and the sentence goes away. After covering dozens and dozens of sentencings in this jurisdiction, I have never once ever seen that happen. I don't think that is a thing. And when judges do sentence people in Nevada, whether you are a citizen or not, they do say there are immigration consequences. Do you understand that? Because after you serve your time in whatever state system, whether that's parole, probation, jail, prison, ICE generally has picked them up post-sentence.
Right.
So it does appear that we're seeing that ICE is picking people up pre-sentence or even pre any kind of adjudication. But again, that immigration judge, which you and I know, and you at home will now know, that we can't view those records. All we could find was that one sheet that I showed you, is that judge granted him a voluntary dismissal or voluntary departure, which is like, you agree to go, please go, and we'll see you never. So
Yeah, there's a lot that doesn't add up there. But as far as being told by a judge that your immigration status may be an issue, that is part of the standard colloquy. So if one of us got arrested and we
They
were
would
a
say all
citizen,
that.
they would still say,
it's in the script.
beware.
I like to say, I met with a judge last week just to kind of say hi and chat a bit. And I said, do you read all that stuff or do you memorize? Because depending if someone's doing a sentencing or a plea or whatever, they do this whole script. And they said, oh, no, we read it. So,
And not to get too deep or anything, but this strikes me that before the immigration policy began to shift, one of the people who was anti-immigration might say, these people get arrested and they run, let's say, to Guatemala. Well, now they're being arrested and they're being told to go.
Yes, they are. And I mean, look at a case like we've been covering, Eric Ringalabara, accused of murdering Leslie Palacio, right? He ran to Mexico and was on the run for 4 years. Mexican authorities got him, and now he's back here facing charges. Now, he lived here for quite some time. This is a crime that happened here, and he'll go forward in the criminal proceedings. But
the marshals really wanted him.
yes, because it's a murder. But this guy who, in this story, he didn't murder her, but he killed her with his car. And it's ironic that he gets sent to Guatemala with, again, no restriction, not confined, at least as far as we're told. And he's not going to come back. And you heard that mom say, is that really justice? And you heard the DA say, well, no, it's not really justice because he's not facing any consequences. And yeah, it's not a free trip.
Well, yeah, and Guatemala's no great chicks necessarily compared to life in America.
No, but I mean,
better than life in prison.
Yeah,
or sometime in prison.
And we have
here.
to say, I'm sure he does have family in
and innocent until proven guilty.
Innocent until proven guilty. However, the evidence is quite strong.
Right.
But again, I mean,
let me change gears on you real quick because this is your area of expertise with the DUI stuff. You said 1 to 6 years.
It's 1 to 6 years for reckless driving. He was not impaired. So
he wasn't impaired.
No,
I'm sorry.
He was not impaired. He had no criminal record.
So that's not one of the laws people are trying to change.
No, and in reality, would he even serve prison time?
I've seen people not get prison time for that or get 1 day in prison or jail, I should say. Yeah,
We'll never
it's not. It's an imperfect system, but this is a particularly imperfect result.
It is.
Excellent reporting,
we have
as
to
usual.
change topics.
Okay. When we come back, we will talk about the very serious charges against the actor from Dances with Wolves known as Nathan Chasinghorse and his sexual assault trial on the other side of this break. Welcome back to our 8 News Now Investigators streaming program. I'm Kyle Payne, joined on my right by David Charnes, 8 News Now investigator extraordinaire. David, you and I just covered your story of someone who got sent to Guatemala. That is a part of an ongoing topic that we'll probably be reporting on for years.
At least for months.
Right. Well, the way this is all shaking out, though, with ICE protests and ICE immigration. But to change gears from one terrible topic to another, our colleague has done an excellent job covering this week the trial of Nathan Chasinghorse. So we tape this here. I'm going to say Friday, January 20 something.
23rd.
The second to last Friday of January. At 24th and 23rd?
It's the 23rd. And what he's trying to say is this is an ongoing trial. So when you watch this on Monday, when this premieres, or anytime after it, there could be something different. So we're just talking it up through
basically
23rd.
the first 3.5 days of testimony. We started after Martin Luther King Day on Tuesday with opening statements. They were...
Well, let's pause. Let's take a beat for a second, because Nathan Chasinghorse is a former actor who was in the movie Dances with Wolves, who had Vanessa's reporting shows a following, a cult, called himself a medicine man, and is on trial right now after 3 years after his arrest, I believe, for sexual assault and other things connected to that.
Right. So he was essentially part of this this tribe. He was a very high-ranking member of it, and the accusations are that he used his standing in that community to meet, become involved with, and essentially abuse women. One woman, Corinna Chasinghorse, she has now goes by another name. She is the state's star witness. And before she testified, we had opening statements where the state outlined all of the things that they say Chasinghorse did. And we've since heard from 3 victims. But in order to set that up, let's watch Vanessa's excellent coverage from the first day of trial.
Prosecutors played a key piece of evidence in this case, and it was graphic. They played video of a man they say is Nathan Chasinghorse sexually abusing a child they identify as under the age of 14. The judge telling media to point the camera up to the ceiling because the video was so graphic. It is sealed, and she and prosecutors do not want this shared publicly. This is day 1 of the trial of Chasinghorse, as he is charged with 21 counts, as you mentioned, related to the alleged sexual abuse of 3 women, 2 of them when they were underage. A total of 3 witnesses testifying today. The trial starting, of course, with opening statements. Defense attorney Craig Mueller calls this a divorce case, while prosecutors describe Chasinghorse as a predator who used his medicine man status in the indigenous culture to manipulate his victims.
Oh, I thought we were going to hear from the...
There was more in there, but we can talk a little bit about it.
Well, basically, let's get to the divorce case stuff, because that's very interesting. Basically, the Chasinghorse's defense attorney has now gone after 3 of the witnesses.
Well, yeah, really quickly, I think it's important to say that I think he was arrested in 2023. I think it was 2023.
So I started
it might have been
here.
2024.
No, it was 2023.
2023, right.
Vanessa darted out of here one afternoon.
Day she was live at 11. I'm like, what's going on?
And that was right when I started.
And this has taken 3 years to get to this point because there was appeals up to the Supreme Court, state Supreme Court.
They had to reindict.
They actually won part of their appeal that has to do with the grand jury testimony that changes now the entire grand jury some of the grand jury process that they talk about from time to time. Anyway, this trial, from what you've seen and what Vanessa has seen, we knew it was going to be explicit and honestly disgusting. And that first day, they were basically the prosecutors were basically saying that he led this cult, he conned these women, and you were talking about his attorney who said what?
Right. Basically, you don't have any evidence of this. You only started to the star witness. You only started to complain when your role as one of his 6 wives deteriorated to the point where you were cut off from the Chasinghorse circle. And now you're stuck and you have hurt feelings. And you didn't go to the hospital necessarily. You know, stuff you normally see in sex assault cases where you're not necessarily naming the victim, but you're picking apart things that maybe a juror would say, well, I would have gone to the doctor. I would have called the police. I would have had an examination. I would have done X, Y, and Z to show that I'd done it, and not wait until the point where years have passed and you finally come forward.
Well, I mean, I think in a lot of these sex assault cases, victims don't want to testify, right? I think even watching Vanessa's reporting, right? She started doing this in 2023. In that first year, she heard from a lot of people. Obviously, we're different than a court of law. She heard from a lot of people who then wanted to tell their story. Ultimately, I think there were people who in the beginning didn't want to show their faces and then did want to show their faces.
Right.
But there are in a lot of these sex cases, people don't want to testify. People don't want to go forward. So it can be difficult to prosecute.
And in this particular case, your point is well taken, because there was one alleged victim who we did not think we were going to hear from in this trial, and then suddenly she came and said, "Here I am." And that's when the judge said, "Okay, we're not identifying this woman." And in fact, it became a First Amendment issue because the newspaper reporter decided he wasn't going to take the judge's order that we not use the
Right. The judge. This is a woman who, according to, from what I can understand, this is a woman who was named.
Yes.
Opening statements.
Well, no, I think she was named in.
She was named somewhere
by her initials in the indictment, but no names were really.
Okay, so as a journalistic standard, just in general, we don't name people who are victims of sexual assault or domestic violence. That's just kind of journalism 101. The judge told the media not to name this woman who was testifying,
which generally we would agree to.
Well, we would agree to it not because
of our own
agree
standards.
with her ordering the media not to do something, but we would agree because we wouldn't do it anyway. It's kind of
But perhaps we don't need to be told not to do it.
Yes, but I don't know what I would do in that situation, but I think it kind of doesn't matter.
Well, the newspaper reporter got taken out of court. When we come back, we will discuss the.
But he came back.
He did. He's back in court. And when we come back, we will discuss today's testimony in this case. Welcome back to our 8 News Now Investigators program on our streaming channel. I'm Kyle Payne, joined by David Charnes. David, we are having a.
I hate how you have the microphone. I just hate it.
Well, how's that? I was told I had to keep it basically on my mouth, so I let my beard.
This isn't SNL when we're talking about, and that I can't say the word, but when they're doing that NPR thing.
No,
but anyway,
thank goodness.
We have 4.5 minutes left.
Right.
So today you're covering it.
I'm going right after this.
What happened?
Well, we heard from a third victim yesterday. Today, the Chasinghorse defense attorney cross-examined her, took the gloves off, as we say, before we heard from that woman's mother. So what we have now is a minute, 20 seconds of that cross-examination of the third alleged victim in the Chasinghorse trial.
I'm a little confused here, and help me understand something. You accuse Nathan of doing horrible things to you, correct? Without your permission. All right. So when this was all done, you told nobody. Didn't tell the police. You didn't get a doctor's examination. You didn't tell your family. You kept quiet on everything, correct?
Up until the hospital visit.
Up until the hospital visit. Now, you had this horrible experience, but then on your own, you came up to Las Vegas to see Nathan again. Is that my understanding?
I told him what happened and he told me to come.
My point, okay. If horrible things had happened to you, aren't you just a little angry? And then instead you came up, did you get in a car and drive up here?
There was a lot of different emotions.
A lot of different emotions, because I want to try to, because I'm trying to get inside your head here.
So there's defense attorney Craig Mueller trying to get inside the head. That was the third of three victims.
We should mention that in the sensitive issue we were talking about before the break, prosecutors played video of that woman getting sexually assaulted, and she was underage at the time.
I believe that is the second victim,
right?
And the one we just saw is the third.
Not her. Yeah.
So she was an adult.
The one that caused all the hubbub the other day.
Yes.
With the name and
yes.
But it just shows that this is terrible.
Yes,
I mean,
and the one you're talking about said, "That's me as a child."
Yes, they played this video, and then the next day she said that's me in the video, and she was underage, and
you know, they say Chasinghorse threatened their families. If the one statement was, "Don't blame me if your family starts dropping like flies."
Oh, that's not
no, and then the spirits will get you, because he was in charge of the circle, so to speak, and so it's ugly. But the defense attorney doing a decent job there, and ultimately he was able to say, okay, that woman that we just heard from had an ectopic pregnancy. And had to go to the hospital. But during all of this trauma, when she was allegedly violated by Nathan Chasinghorse, she still took his request to come up from 4 hours away, drive to Las Vegas at his request. So he's making the argument, how bad could it be?
If I came back, yeah. Let's just say, though, that Vanessa's done a lot of reporting on this, so you can watch. She did a documentary.
She did
Breaking the Circle.
Excellent.
That you can find on YouTube.
It is on YouTube.
And I'm sure it's on 8newsnow.com somewhere. And then obviously if you just search Nathan Chasinghorse, you'll see all of her reporting in this trial expected to last several more weeks.
And her tweets read like a novel.
Yeah, and there's live coverage on 8newsnow.com today. Every day there's a trial. It's going to be online with all the tweets. Kyle doesn't tweet like Vanessa does. So.
No one does.
But she's been doing like word for word. So,
and with that, we took two very heavy topics. And apologies for those of you who found these topics to be difficult to deal with. But these are the things we deal with on a daily basis, and
things that are happening in our community.
We feel you need to know about them, and we work very hard to get those through to you. So,
and
with
I'm
that,
about to take a week off. So.
Good night, and thank you for watching.
See you in 2 weeks. Bye-bye.